We are living in a volatile political environment. You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorable.
Come on, man.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Come on, man. And if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It was a debate.
Man, it's good to be back. You know, sometimes you need a break, and sometimes life forces you to take a break. But as the saying goes, you can't keep a good man down. And the forces that be are learning that about the Don. No matter what they do or say, they can't knock him off his pedestal. And they're throwing everything at him. This last week, we reached clown world territory. After the Georgia indictment, which we will be talking about in the big lead, media outlets accused Donald Trump of using a racist dog whistle because he used the word rigor in the truth. And the truth in question will be right here as I quote from it. A large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable reports on the presidential election fraud which took place in Georgia is almost complete and will be presented by me at a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday of next week in Bedminster, New Jersey. Based on the results of this conclusive report, all charges should be dropped against me and others. There will be a complete exoneration. They never went after those that rigged the election. They only went after those that fought to find the riggers. My rigor. How much shit can they throw at the wall? And obviously that is our main topic for today. Donald Trump. He's going to be the all-encompassing topic of this fucking show today. There's a lot to get to on him. Now, we will also talk about Lahaina. And I will end with something funny to end the day. That and more coming up. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Deplorable Talk Show. You are here with Mr. Deplorable himself, Israel Perez. So, this is the show where I give you my unfiltered opinion on politics and culture. I know nothing about the things I choose to talk about, but this is America, where opinions are just like assholes. Everyone has one. I just choose to record mine and spread it on the internet. So, let's talk about Hawaii and the tragedy that took place on the island of Maui. And I'm going to start off at the top here with my condolences to the families that lost loved ones. Because what I'm going to say might come off as mean or distasteful, and in no way am I victim blaming the residents of Lahaina. The death toll has surpassed 100 plus. And if you can donate, please do, because they have no power, no internets. People are getting the runaround by their insurance companies. And Grandpa Biden's $700 check is just enough for a week's stay at a shitty hotel. And to all my conspiracy heads out there, maybe just wait 48 hours, before saying it was Chinese space lasers and the WEF trying to make 15-minute cities. No, because you could have made a more believable conspiracy with the actual facts that happened. Which the cause of these fires was bad infrastructure, poor preparation, and Mother Nature. And that brings me to my hot take here. You vote for people that don't care about you, Hawaii. Hawaii has been a Democrat stronghold since it was given statehood back in 1959. From 1959 to present, there has only been 2 Republican House representatives elected in Hawaii. Both were in the 1st District, and Maui, where the event took place, is part of the 2nd. From 1959 to present, there has only been 1 Republican elected to Senate, and that was in 1959. Since 1959, there have only been 2 Republican governors. And the reason that all that is relevant because of policy. Policy matters. Good policy is what keeps a state functioning. And one of the most important policies a state makes is fiscal policy. No, fiscal policy is basically how the state spends your hard-earned dollars because they tax the shit out of you. No, and Hawaii is one of the top 5 states with the highest taxes. So I was looking at the data. If you make $150,000 or less a year, you're paying 8 to 7% in state income tax. No, if you add in federal income tax on top of that, your yearly income is getting taxed 27 to 30%. That's insane, dude. And that's not adding in sales tax, gas tax, liquor tax, tobacco tax, property tax, payroll tax on both federal and state. No, where's that money going? With how much Hawaiians get taxed, the infrastructure should be a non-issue. Period, dude. Those power lines should have been fixed decades ago. Companies that provide utilities are subsidized and regulated by the Public Utilities Commission of the state. Hawaii Electric in 2022 was funded $189.7 million to help fix the power grid statewide, but failed to do so. Why? Who knows? But I bet it has to do with the fact that in 2015, Democrats, the House and the Senate, passed legislation in Hawaii that mandated that Hawaii Electric Company derive 100% of its electricity from renewable energy sources by 2045. 80% of Hawaii's energy is derived from petroleum. That's insane. And you can blame the electrical company all you want, but elected officials deserve some of the blame. All this was preventable, but policy and your elected officials not doing their job got in the way. These are the people you vote for. And I'm sorry to tell you, but Democrats don't care about you. Like I said earlier, with how much the residents of Hawaii get taxed, their infrastructure should be top notch. Where's that money going to? No, I'll tell you where it's going to. It's going to fund welfare. Hawaii is a welfare state, and there's nothing wrong with taking care of the poor, but when it becomes a perpetual state of existence, those governmental agencies go from assisting you to a business. They need to keep a majority of Hawaiians in a state of poverty so they can continue to gain federal funding and have a reason to constantly raise their taxes. So let's look at this chart. So Hawaii is spending per capita, and that is per person, $2,500 per person in public welfare. Hawaii's population is 1.5 million. That's a lot of money if you do the math. And how much are they spending on infrastructure per person? Well, if we look over here, it looks like highways and roads is about $750 per person. Now, if we scroll down, most of that money comes from federal taxes, of course, but the next in line is your sales tax and your income tax. That means the Hawaiian citizens are paying your state government to keep you in poverty. So if they invested as much money as they do in public welfare to infrastructure, it would bring down public welfare because they would be creating jobs that don't depend on tourism. But hey, why would they do that, right? That would affect other governmental jobs that depend on your poverty for funding. They don't care about you. They need to keep you in poverty so they can continue to rack in $18.8 billion. And the way they keep you in poverty is high taxes. So your nose is barely above water, making $70,000 a year. That's the poverty line in Hawaii. It's $70,000 a year. Give the government more money so we can misspend it and give you enough to barely scrape by. So here's what I think is going to happen in Lahaina. The state is going to come in and buy land for pennies on the dollar. They will build their 15-minute city. The wealthy will live in high sky-rise condos that were built with your tax dollars and that the wealthy now own. The poor that qualify will live in Section 8 housing and rent-controlled apartments within the 15-minute city. The jobs in that area will pay you enough to make rent, buy food, and occasionally enjoy amenities. But you will never make enough to save up to buy a car, a condo of your own, or save for retirement. Generation after generation will live in continual poverty because poverty is how they control you and keep you sucking on the governmental teat. That's a little morbid, but that is more realistic to me than what they are currently trying to sell the residents of Lahaina.
My intention from start to finish is to make sure that no one is victimized from a land grab, that we do not suffer predation against those who are suffering. So I've instructed the Attorney General to work toward a moratorium on any transactions. There's some legal challenges there. We're going to push right through those and make sure that people don't lose their land here in Hawaii. That is central. I've been speaking to leaders all across our state, and that's important to everyone. What that means is
nobody's forcing them to sell the land.
We're going to make sure that there are no transactions that take advantage of our people, and we're going to give you some definitive answers by Friday about how hard I can lock that down. That doesn't mean we don't want people to come and invest in Hawaii and travel to Hawaii.
No, you just want to be able to say how much you can sell the land for.
We'll talk about that in a moment. What it means is people are right now traumatized. Please don't approach them with an offer to buy land. Please don't approach their families to tell them that they're going to be better off if they make a deal, because we're not going to allow it. And then between myself and I'm sure the mayor, we're not going to allow people to get permits. Forgive me for speaking for mayor, but I know he's a tough guy. We're not going to allow people to take advantage. And it's going to be a very significant amount of time anyway in the recovery before building could be done. So don't make the mistake of testing us in that space, please.
Okay. So are you going to cut property taxes for the residents of Lahaina? Are you going to give them money to rebuild? Are you going to provide them with shelter during the rebuilding process? Because the residents are not going to be able to afford all that on their own. And if you're not going to provide them with that, the only other option they have is to sell. And if you cut off private investors from coming in and buying up land from landowners, you would deprive them of the option of bargaining for the best price. Because the only option they will have is selling to the government. And Economics 101, if there is supply but no demand, your property isn't worth shit. It's only worth what the buyer is willing to pay. And if Grandpa Biden was only willing to supply you with $700 in aid, that should tell you what they think that your property is worth. So, remember, when the governmental land grab starts, that is what you voted for. Now that we have the hot take out of the way, let's jump into something fun as a palate cleanser before we get into, the big topic for today. The Iowa State Fair. This was supposed to be a day where every Republican candidate running for president gets a chance to show Iowans that they are just regular guys, just like you and me. No, but they didn't factor in Trump. Trump was the spotlight even before he was there. During a Q&A with Ron DeSantis, you could hear a crowd of people chanting, "We want Trump. We want Trump. We want Trump." And then Kim Reynolds humiliatingly scolded the crowd. Let's give that a watch.
They're hanging in there with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here as we have the opportunity. Well, first of all, welcome back to the State Fair. Ron, it's great to have you here, so welcome back.
No, it's great to be here. We're really excited to see everybody. We appreciate how nice everybody is. Great to be in the Midwest. I tell people, Normally, when I want to do Midwestern nice, I just go to Fort Myers in January, and I have half the Midwest there. But we love everybody that comes down to Florida, but particularly Southwest Florida from Iowa and other parts.
Thank you. Well, listen, good friend, former colleague, governor from Florida, and so I appreciate that and appreciate the friendly competition. So Ron's out there doing the 99 county tour. I think you may be ahead of me. Hey, you know what? We're in Iowa, and in Iowa, we're Iowa nice. So let's give everybody the opportunity to hear our candidates. So we'll stop until you do, but we're all going to have an opportunity to hear from each and every candidate. That's what we've been doing. So, okay.
No, she was better off not acknowledging it because she made a humiliating situation worse. You know, and if that situation was not already humiliating enough for Ron DeSantis, during the same Q&A with people chanting, "We want Trump" in the background, Trump hired a plane to fly over the Iowa State Fair with the banner that said, "Be likable, Ron."
I want to give you a live look of what's happening right now. We have Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sitting down with Iowa's governor, a popular governor, Kim Reynolds, a Republican who has really given stage to some of the Republican candidates here in Iowa, doing what she is calling fair side chats, talking about their various talking points and going over their vision for the Republican Party. But as DeSantis is sitting there speaking with Governor Reynolds, up above we can hear a plane flying, and that plane is pulling a banner. That banner says, if you can take a look, it says, "Be likable, Ron." So someone, we don't know who is paying for this, but taking a dig at Ron DeSantis, foreshadowing Donald Trump's arrival. He is expected here a little later this afternoon. It's unclear if these two will have any sort of FaceTime or they'll brush by each other. This is a very large state fair, so that may not happen.
It was Donald Trump who paid for that banner. His fucking campaign paid for that fucking banner. And I'm sorry, but that was fucking hilarious. And he's not even there yet. You know? And of course, when the Don showed up, no one else mattered. Who loves Trump? I do. Ah, man, dude. Look at all those people. All those people, man. Nobody else fucking mattered there in Iowa once he showed up. You know, and I didn't show the clip, but when Trump flew in, somebody was recording next to DeSantis while he was fucking flipping steaks or whatever. I think they were cooking pork chops. And he's like, "Is that his fucking plane?" Because they knew, man. They knew once he rolled in, dude. He was there late, you know. Showed up when he needed it, when he wanted to show up, you know, and didn't matter. It didn't fucking matter. You can't get rid of the dude. No, Donald Trump is the face of the Republican Party. You know, they have no idea what to do with him, which is perhaps why they are willing to bring down our most vital institution in order to get rid of him. Scorched earth tactics are being implemented in the realm of our judiciary system. You know, we are truly in unprecedented times within the United States. It's a little scary because the ball seems to still be rolling downhill. Now, the ball gained speed with the criminal prosecution of Donald Trump. Now, and once you thought the ball could not roll any further, we are now witnessing the possibility of indictments against lawyers for providing counsel. Donald Trump's lawyers are facing criminal charges because they gave him legal advice. That is protected by the Constitution. And so is free speech, but I guess the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's been dwindled down to a paper that the DOJ and the FBI wiped their asses with. No, and if they prosecute lawyers for providing legal counsel, the ball does not stop there. Next is the American citizen, social media influencers, talking heads, anyone who dared to criticize the 2020 election. Because it is you who helped incite insurrection. Your criticisms help fan the flames of January 6th. You know, and if you think that's an outlandish claim, think again. Because they went after Trump's custodian because he was on tape moving boxes. You know, Trump probably told him, hey, can you move these boxes for me? And he was like, sounds good, boss. And that's exactly what happened because they used him as a witness in the grand jury. And I'm sure it was not by choice. And if you're asking why, you know, why would they feel the need to go after people who have nothing to do with January 6th? Well, this is why. Breaking. Trump leads Biden 41% to 34% in national premise poll. Trump is beating Biden, and they are starting to worry. And the claim they have made since Biden took office is starting to slip away. The claim is Trump will lose again in 2024 because more people will vote against Trump than vote for him. Because if we look at another poll, it shows us the margin of voters that will come out and vote for Biden because a vote for Biden is a vote against Trump. So here's a poll provided to us by Interactive Polls. This is a national poll done by 538. And we can see that Trump beats Biden 42 to 38. Now, if for some reason Trump is not the nominee and Biden has to face DeSantis, Biden loses 2% of his voter base. We could probably safely say the reason Biden loses 2% going up against DeSantis is because that 2% doesn't care about voting unless it's voting against Trump. You know, and the Biden administration is seeing the writing on the wall. Their only chance of defeating Trump is to criminally charge him in order to prevent him from campaigning and to go after American citizens in order to scare others away from supporting Trump. And they want to do more than just prevent him from campaigning. They want to put him in jail. No, I said it before and I will say it again. 2024 will be a key moment in American history. We will witness the first president elected into office from behind bars. And you can call that hyperbole, but I think that is in the realm of possibility. Because we have radicals in our legal system that are vowing to make that happen. The judge for the January 6th trial has already made up her mind that Trump is guilty and believes he should be behind bars. Judge Tanya Chutkin, I think that's how you say her last name, made it very clear in the sentencing of a Jan 6er that she thinks Trump is responsible for January 6th. And here's a truth from Donald Trump. The following truth is a quote by highly partisan Judge Tanya Chutkin, angrily sentencing a Jan 6er in October of 2022. She obviously wants me behind bars. Very biased and unfair. Quote, I see the videotapes, I see the footage of the flags and the signs that people were carrying and the hats that they were wearing and the garb. And the people who mobbed the Capitol were there in fealty, in loyalty to one man, not to the Constitution, of which most of the people who come before me seem woefully ignorant, not to the ideals of this country, and not to the principles of democracy. It is a blind loyalty to one person who, by the way, remains free to this day. That is the judge who will be presiding over the January 6th trial for Donald Trump. Now, how is that not biased? Tell me, I would love to know. You can't deny the bias that is taking place within every single one of these trials. Now, and whether you believe Trump is guilty or not, the fact is, Trump was the president of the United States. He is well known, and it is naive and un-American to even think that Donald Trump would get a fair trial anywhere. Now, with that being said, let's get into the big lead.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so before we get into the Georgia indictment, we first should start off with why this is happening. So, on Election Day, a water pipe burst during the counting of absentee ballots in Fulton County. And here's a clip.
Well, we've also got some breaking news right now, so we want to check in with CBS's Mark Strassman. He is in Georgia, where they're having a big problem counting some of the votes. Mark?
Nora, this is an election return watch party here on the edge of Atlanta. These are mostly excited Democrats because when's the last time Georgia thought of itself as a battleground state? After a record early returns and essentially a day of problem-free voting, there is now a hitch in the tabulation of votes. I'm standing in Fulton County. Fulton County includes a chunk of Atlanta. Downtown Atlanta is State Farm Arena, where the Atlanta Hawks play. They are tabulating the absentee ballots of Fulton County, Georgia's most populous county. A water pipe has broken inside the arena. They had counted 86,000 absentee ballots. We don't know how many more they have yet to tabulate, but all the tabulation of those ballots has now stopped. We're told by election officials they may not finish tabulating those votes for a day or two. So depending how close the rest of the state is, we may not know the result of this critical battleground state for another day or two.
Yeah. I remember that because I was at work when that happened. I was like, oh, shit. This is going to be a long fucking election. And I thought we were going to start seeing more results come in the next day. But that didn't happen because at 3 a.m., they started counting again. And Biden ends up winning Georgia. Now, video footage comes out from the State Farm Arena where the pipe allegedly bursts, And once everyone has been sent home, the footage shows a group of people who stayed behind and continued counting. So let's give that a watch.
This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table. Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out. So what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots? And why are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses? Is the question. So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math. How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes and rules, to supervise the tabulation?
That is a great question. Why did they continue counting after they sent everyone home and there was nobody there to supervise the tabulation? I'm not saying that that little incident would have gave Trump, you know, the win in Georgia, but it's a weird thing that happened, you know. It doesn't make any sense. And then a watchdog company found that ballots in Fulton County, Georgia, were double counted. And here's an article to prove that. So, because of restrictions, they want me to pay to read their article, and they can go fuck themselves. I'm having to use the Wayback Machine. So, this is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Some ballots initially double counted in Fulton before recounts. Almost 200 duplicates found when ballot images made public. So, with those two incidences that took place in Fulton County, I would say Trump questioning and seeking legal counsel on how to approach and conduct a legal audit on the results of the election is reasonable. But what I think is reasonable, Georgia thinks is criminal conduct, even though saying that you think there was election fraud and lawyers providing you with counsel and avenues for you to challenge an election outcome is protected by the Constitution. Georgia says, we don't care. We will do legal gymnastics to poke holes in the Constitution and shit on your rights. And that is exactly what's happening. Georgia is using an artful interpretation of the RICO Act, which is created to take down criminal organizations. They are implying that President Trump and his team of legal advisors are a criminal enterprise. How does that make sense? You know, here's Fani Willis announcing the indictment.
Thank you for joining us. I'm here with the prosecutors and investigators who have worked diligently on the investigation of criminal attempts to interfere in the administration of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state. The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long. Please remember that everyone charged in this bill of indictment is presumed innocent. Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman.
Why does she talk that way?
Mark Randall Meadows.
I don't like it.
John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with one count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21. Specifically, the participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors who were certified as the winners of Georgia's 2020 general election.
Why does she talk like that? You know, it's just like, yes, I will come to the barbecue on Tuesday. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's just like, Jesus, it was fucking killing me. She could have, well, that was 3 minutes and like 56 seconds. She could have said all that in like 2 minutes. But her pronunciation of every goddamn word made the clip a lot longer than what it should have been. Oh, man, dude. Oh, no. So, I went through the 96-page, indictment. Unfortunately. And from my scanning of it, her RICO charge is basically based on a secret meeting between lawyers, people from Trump's campaign, and the GOP chairman, David Schaefer from Georgia. In this meeting, they decided that they didn't agree that the electors sent for Biden were the correct slate of electors. So they would send a GOP slate of electors to be counted instead of the DNC's electors. Giving Trump the victory in Georgia. Now, both slate of electors from Georgia would come to Mike Pence, and it would be his sole decision on which slate of electors to count for Georgia. No, none of this is illegal. No, it has happened many times throughout our history of presidential elections. And the biggest one was in Hawaii's first presidential election. And this is from the Hawaii Free Press. So, turnout topped 93% in Hawaii. The state's results was close, just as the nation was overall. Nixon initially appeared to be the winner by 141 votes, and the Republicans' governor declared him the winner. But a judge granted the Kennedy's team request for a recount. As it dragged on, the judge rejected GOP's attempts to stop the counts. When the mid-December date came for the Electoral College to meet, this year, it's December 14th, both Republican and Democrat electors sent their votes to Washington to be counted. Kennedy eventually was declared the winner in Hawaii's recount by 115 votes, but the two sets of certifications were waiting when the joint session of Congress convened. Democrats, including Rep. Daniel K. Inyor, I think that's how you say his last name, were ready to lodge an objection if the GOP slate was counted. But the presiding officer, the Senate president, who also is the vice president, Nixon, pushed the issue aside. So, before the recount even happened, Democrats in Hawaii said, we don't agree with the Republican slate of electors, so we are sending our own. Because they believed Kennedy won, not Nixon. Nixon, knowing that the recount came out showing that Hawaii found 150 more votes for Kennedy, he could still say, I don't care, I am vice president, and I choose to count the original slate of electors, which was casted for Nixon. What they did was not illegal. It happens all the time. Now, the indictment is 96 pages long, so they are going off more than just this secret meeting. With the RICO Act, she is able to take different incidences and make a story of it and tie it all together, when in reality, you wouldn't be able to tie those things together. Now, that's why I called it an artful interpretation earlier. That's why in the indictment, they are able to use tweets from Trump encouraging people to go watch the Georgia hearings on OAN as an act of conspiracy. Check this out. So Act 22 says, on or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account at Real Donald Trump. Quote, Georgia hearing now on OAN. Amazing. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. That is insane. I can't believe they're able to do that. Oh, man, dude. To hammer this in, what happened in Georgia was not illegal. This is why they are using the RICO Act, because everything on an individual basis was not illegal. But when you group it all together and make an embellishing story out of it, on paper, it seems illegal. And that's the only way they could go after Trump and everybody else, to charge them with something. You know, and here's another example of why what happened in Georgia was not illegal. Al Gore and Alan Dershowitz did the same thing in Florida back in 2000. And let's bring up that article. Alan Dershowitz, Al Gore, his legal team, and I tried to find uncounted presidential votes, lobbied officials, and fought in the courts in 2000. The only difference now, the candidate's name is Donald Trump. That's why this prosecution is an outrage. I was one of the lawyers involved in objections to Florida's presidential vote in 2000. A margin of less than 600 ballots determined that Governor George W. Bush, rather than Vice President Al Gore, won the state and thus the Electoral College vote. I was convinced then, and I am convinced now, that this result was wrong. No one was indicted, disbarred, disciplined, or even much criticized for those efforts, yet here we stand today. President Donald Trump and 18 other defendants has been charged with election fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, and more under a law designed to take down criminal organizations known as the RICO Act. Should Al Gore have been charged in 2000? What about me? I represented the voters of Palm Beach County, many of whom voted by mistake for Pat Buchanan rather than Gore because of the infamous butterfly ballots and hanging chads that prevented their votes from being accurately counted. During the course of our challenges, many tactics similar to those employed in 2020 were attempted. Lawyers wrote legal memoranda outlining possible course of conduct, including proposing a slate of alternate electors who would deliver our preferred election results to Congress. Now Trump and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, along with others, are accused of conspiracy to commit forgery and false statements for drafting their list of alternate electors. In 2000, Florida state officials were lobbied to secure recounts in selected counties in which we thought the tally would favor us. We were trying to find at least 600 votes that would change the result. This new indictment features Trump's phone call with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, which was captured in audio recording. In the conversation, Trump asked Raffensperger to find 12,000 votes. In my mind, this call is among the most exculpatory pieces of evidence. Trump was entitled as a candidate to ask a Georgia state official to locate votes that he believes were not counted. In 2000, attempts were made to influence various Florida officials to recount the votes. Now, the former president's request that Georgia's Republican Speaker of the House reconsider the count is being charged as soliciting a public official to violate his oath. But if similar behavior was legal in 2000, how could it be illegal in 2023? In the end, all those efforts in Florida failed when the Supreme Court in 5-4 vote ordered the recount stopped, thereby turning the election over to President George W. Bush. I wrote a book entitled Supreme Injustice, condemning the Supreme Court's decision and insisting that the election had been stolen from Gore and improperly handed to the candidate who received fewer votes. The book was a bestseller, featured in front-page reviews in the New York Times and other major publications. Most Americans thought that those challenging the Florida vote had acted in good faith, even though the courts ruled against them. What's different today is that many observers do not believe that Trump and his advisors were sincere when they declared that they had won the election, but that doesn't make what they did a crime. The Georgia indictment hinges on the allegation that Trump was lying in order to corruptly prevent the inauguration of the candidate who won the election fair and square. Conspiracy and RICO violations are specific intent crimes. In order to secure a conviction, prosecutors must prove a personalized agreement to join a criminal activity. That will be an incredibly difficult case to make, especially regarding Trump himself, who, to my knowledge, has never wavered from his belief that the election was stolen. He is wrong, but again, that is not enough to prove him guilty. The First Amendment and general crime law principles protect the right to be wrong, especially if the right is based on an honest mistake or belief. Many point to the claim that Trump's associates allegedly stole voting machine data, but that accusation is hotly contested. The jury will have to assess the credibility of each side. The fundamental truth of this indictment is that if evidence of specific crimes were compelling, there would be no need to charge under the onerous intent requirements of RICO and conspiracy laws. The proof is not compelling because these electoral challenges have precedent. Once again, as with the preceding three Trump indictments, the law is being stretched to its limits in order to snare a former president. Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime, is the infamous Soviet-era boast attributed to Joseph Stalin's chief of secret police. Is this really what our country has become? When prosecutions are rooted in fickle ground of politics and not solid rock of justice, everything will crumble. It's been done before. That's the big thing here. And like he said, the only way you can charge these crimes is to use the RICO Act. You can't charge them individually because they're not breaking any crimes. No. This indictment is election interference. No, they know their interpretation of RICO Act will not hold up, even if the jury convicts Trump, because the Supreme Court will step in and say no. This is why Fani Willis sat on this for so long. She could have brought charges when she first announced that she would be seeking an indictment in January of 2021. She waited till now to bring these indictments because she knew it would hinder Trump's campaign, and it would also be a great campaign tool for her re-election. They already had these charges drafted up. They did. The grand jury that Fani Willis was waiting on to make a decision on what to charge Trump on was all made up. It didn't matter. It was all fucking a fucking circus set up for you to sit there and watch and wait until, oh man, are they going to make the decision? When are they going to make the decision? They accidentally released the indictments before the grand jury made a decision on what to charge Trump with. And if you don't believe me, here's a fucking article. I Am Human. Fulton clerk explains mishap over charges accidentally posted before Trump indictment. The Fulton County Clerk of Courts is fessing up that she messed up and accidentally publicly released indictment charges against former President Donald Trump. That's even though the grand jury was still deliberating and hadn't made any decisions on charges. If the grand jury was still deliberating, how did the county clerk have documentation of the charges? You know, how did she accidentally release things that didn't fucking exist? How? And here's the document she released. So, case 23SC1888945, the state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump. It was released 8/14/23 at 12:39 p.m. They didn't come out and actually say that the grand jury was done deliberating and released charges till like fucking 3 a.m. the next day. I think it was like 1 a.m. Insane. And all these charges here, if I was to bring up, and I forgot to grab it, but if I were to bring up the actual indictment that they released, the official indictment, every single one of these charges lines up to what they have on their piece of paper. How? How? That is illegal. No, and at the end of the day, it shows that this was planned. What Fani Willis is doing is election interference disguised as justice. And that ends the big lead.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Now, I don't know about you, but I love the American flag. It represents freedom units, guns, big fucking trucks, and the right for me to tell you to go fuck yourself. And that's what we did to this poor girl. So here's another edition of Today in TikTok.
Today in TikTok.
You know, I kind of felt bad for this girl because I don't think she knew the door she would be opening by posting this rant about the American flag to TikTok.
I'm just gonna say it. There are too many American flags. Like, they're on houses, they're on cars, saw them on couch cushions. Like, I don't know who's making these American flags, but they'd be making a bloody fortune. And like, you're the only country that I know that does this. Like, the only time I think I've ever seen an Australian flag is like on the Harbour Bridge. Could not tell you what it looks like. Like, I know it's like blue and it's got some stars on it, but I think I could draw the American flag from memory. Like, I think I could make a bloody sculpture out of it. That's how many times I've seen it. It's enough. Let's pull back on it, okay? Let's stay humble.
Welcome to America, honey. There's nothing humble about the American flag. We conquered terrorism, we beat the commies to the moon, and we protect your country from the Chi-Coms. So next time you see an American flag on a pillow, on a bumper, or tattooed on the lower back of a female, have some respect, or get the fuck out of our country. And that ends Today in TikTok.
Today in TikTok.
Freedom is strong. Don't trust China. China is asshole.
That ends the show, guys. Thank you for watching. If you like the show and are watching on Rumble or YouTube, please give a like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, please hit the subscribe button. Take care, guys. See you next episode.